Hey, everybody. My friend Christian is here today. I'm your host, Vinny, and we are going to do an interview of me here on The Human Factor. So, against normal tradition where I just sit here and interview all of my guests, I'm going to have my buddy Christian here interview me because we've noticed that a lot of podcasts that we watch, you really don't know anything about the person talking. They give you their personal insights on things. They try to help you with a lot of things in life. And yet you don't know where they came from or what their mentality really is about. So we came up with this episode thinking maybe you can get a little bit of insight on the way I work and where I sit on a lot of options and things I've been through in life. So without any more ado, here is Christian, and he's going to be throwing some questions at me that I'm going to be interviewing for.
Cool. Awesome. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, buddy.
Glad to be part of this.
Of course.
It's kind of funny because, we spent years together at this point. So it's kind of cool to sit here across the table and throw these questions at you.
It's true. And for anybody who doesn't know, because there's no way they would,
Yeah.
Christian and I actually did a little bit of a podcast a couple of years ago.
This is many years ago.
Yeah,
like a pilot.
it was really, really good. And
fun.
I think that he should start up with it again because it was awesome and it was a lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
We had a lot of good time. A lot of good times.
All right. So without further ado, your first question, sir. What part of yourself have you spent the most time trying to fix? And what did you learn from that?
This is going to be good questions, aren't they?
Yes.
Okay. I think a part of myself that I've spent the most time trying to fix is the ability to accept things as they are. I think from a really young age, I always felt like, and I think most people feel like it too, like they have two lives. You never feel like you're going to get old until boom, one day you're just old.
That's true.
And I think a lot of people live their life with the expectation that there's going to be a second life. So I have a problem accepting the fact that I can't change things from the past.
Okay.
And as much as I really would love to go back, like a lot of people, people die in your life, relationships end, you would love to go back to that time and change certain situations. So that was always really, really hard for me. I think that another thing is ego and probably my pride on things. I like always being the person who goes out of the way to do things or try to make everybody as happy as possible.
I understand that.
It's kind of daunting, and I think it weighs a lot on you too.
It does.
Because you're the type of person also who's like
a people pleaser, essentially, like you.
Yeah. Like you want everybody in the room to be happy. You go
Yes.
above and beyond because you can feel, you have like the perspicacity to know what others are thinking. And you kind of get that, I want to do better for you, even though you don't do better for me a lot of the times.
I feel like it's kind of like an empath thing.
Yes.
Because you're able to so easily put yourself in someone else's shoes and how they might feel. You end up kind of superseding your own experience, I guess, over,
Yeah,
again, the people around you.
exactly.
It's a blessing and a curse.
It is definitely a blessing and a curse.
It's like you have a high EQ, you know?
Yeah. And what do you do with it at that point?
Yeah.
You put all your, I don't want to say you put all your eggs in one basket because you're kind of like putting all your eggs in every basket.
Yeah,
And then you
don't have enough eggs.
Exactly. And you spread
Yeah.
yourself super thin. So I always felt like if I'm in a room with a lot of people, I like going to every single, I guess, group and niche and clique and whatever you want to call it. And not really being a chameleon because I'm always still myself, but I want to know what those people are thinking. And I want those people to always feel like they belong.
Okay.
And I never really feel like I belong anywhere.
Is there a direct relation to the people pleasing, like, kind of concept to your ability to accept and like struggle with change? Are those two things interrelated exactly, or do you think they're two separate things?
I think they overlap in a sense because as a person, you have to change. I'm not a technological person whatsoever. For me, if it was up to me, I would have a corded phone still. I hate technology. Like I have this computer in front of me, the microphones, all this stuff to set this stuff up. It drives me nuts. I mean, your wife knows. I tell her all the time. This stuff is really hard for me to grasp. But for some reason, maybe the thought that you said, like the whole empath thing,
Mhm.
when I walk into a room, I feel like I can already tell the vibe. I can see
Yeah.
what people are feeling. And I know that's weird for some people to accept that. But it changes you. It changes the way you talk. It changes the way you listen. It changes the way you feel. Because by the end of the night, even though you had this wonderful smile on your face and you had a great time, sometimes I'm just exhausted, and it's not even that I'm there for me. It's like I'm exhausted because I wanted to make everybody else happier. When
Mm.
I know that there's the world that we live in, everybody's kind of like, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people that I know, they're very superficial and
Yes.
narcissistic and self-centered these days, especially. I mean, you go to the grocery store, nobody holds the door open for you.
Yeah.
You go on a train, nobody gets up anymore and says, "Hey, the pregnant woman or the older woman say, "Oh, do you want to take my seat?" Nobody does that anymore because it's all about comfort.
Yeah.
So, I guess what I'm trying to get back to is when you walk into a room, at least when I walk into a room, I try to gauge how everybody else is feeling. And if I notice that somebody's down, tend to spend a lot more time with them. Maybe that is like a good ego thing. But growing up, I didn't have that. Growing up, it was very like, gotta be the alpha.
Mm.
Gotta, your ego is like the biggest thing in the world. I want this to be bigger than everyone else because bigger is better. So you're the one that goes out and above, for going out to clubs and things like that or bars. I was always the first one to make my impression, like go up to the first attractive girl that I saw. And I noticed that after a while of doing it, I realized that it wasn't that I wanted to talk to the girl. It was that I really just enjoyed speaking to people and I wanted to know what people were about.
Well, now you have this show.
So I do. Yeah.
Seems like a prime way to connect and understand others
Yeah.
and provide something of value to others, which is kind of cool.
I think that the entire show premise, which, obviously is based on the first pilot episode that I have, which explains the majority of it, we just live in a world where everybody is kind of in their own bubble. And I want this show to pull back a little bit.
To
And
get outside of the bubble.
yeah, I want, per se, yeah, we could call it that. I want people to start realizing that they're not the center of the world. They're the center of their world, don't get me
Yes.
wrong, but they're not the center of attention everywhere.
Mm.
Like you'll have a guy who's just Mr. Macho Masculine, and then maybe you'll have a girl who thinks that she's the best thing in the entire world. It's not about your looks or what you can offer. It's just about being part of something bigger. And I think we got sidetracked with social media
Of course.
because we're so infatuated with people who have tons of money and who we were talking about it before, looks
Yeah.
maxing and like all these crazy things. It's like, we're so stuck on beauty and glamour and youth that we don't realize that with age comes knowledge. And as someone who loved going out partying and hanging out with friends, I think I would probably for the first time ever, I would probably say now that I thought quantity was better than quality.
Mm.
And I think a lot of young people feel that way as well.
Mm.
There's a lot more people who want like views.
Yeah.
The more views you have, the more validated you feel. The more friends you have online, the more validated you feel. But at the same time, technology has really kind of pulled us further apart than brought us together. It's nice that we have the ability to talk to people. Like, my dad's from Sicily and he talks to his friends that he hasn't seen in 40 years from there on Facebook
Yeah.
or on, Instagram or other social media platforms. And that's wonderful. But a lot of people that aren't my father's age or your father's age, we're really just doing it just to get dopamine hits.
Yeah. That's the scary part.
Exactly. And I think I read a while ago that said one like for a 13-year-old girl on a social media platform is the same dopamine hit as winning $100 in a casino.
That's kind of terrifying.
How crazy is that?
It's terrifying.
Even with today's youth, our attention span, I mean, we're 10 years apart, you and I,
Yeah.
a little over 10 years apart, but like our attention span for our generation was like 10 to 12 seconds on something.
And now it's even shorter.
Now it's less than 1 second.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. Well, less than 1 second for an attention span. That means on a dating profile,
Oh yeah. No.
you're just, you don't even care about the person.
Yeah.
It's not about anything. It's just your brain automatically goes to if you're attracted to them or not.
Yep.
Because that person who's maybe 10% less attractive than you think you deserve, and I'll put it in quotes because these days the expectations are just so far-fetched for what men want and what for women want, especially. I just think it's comical. But yeah, it's crazy what we've gone to and how we've gotten here. And the whole premise of the show technically is pulling back and just feeling more rather than just the social aspect of it. If that answers your question. I know I kind of went off topic here, but that's just how I go.
That's okay.
That's
It's
how I
the
speak.
nature. It's the
It's the nature
nature
of the
of it.
beast.
Yes. Really quick,
Yeah.
you had mentioned something in the initial part of the answer about living. People live like they have a second life to live.
Hmm.
They're not aware of their, like, like the fleeting existence. Because if you look at it, like, time on this earth is short. It made me think of like that company that makes the calendar that you stick on the wall. It's like really big.
Yeah.
And each one is a day of your life, and it goes up to, like, I guess 100 years, and like you go and you fill them in of like the ones you've already spent, and when you look at it, you're like, oh boy, I only have like 2/3, if that, left. What do I do? So I don't know, I thought of that immediately when you mentioned that.
Well, when I was in my 20s, it didn't bother me at all. I felt like I was Superman.
Yeah.
I could do anything. I can go anywhere. Whatever's happening to me right now, anxiety wise or whatnot, like eventually it will pass.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to be somebody else. But I'll tell you, 10 years, I'm going to be 42 now.
Yeah.
And that didn't change at all. If anything, now it's even heavier
Yeah.
because you got to worry about bills.
Of course.
You got to worry about love. You got to worry about your existence. I don't think you look at least me, I don't look at status as much.
Mm.
Like to me, status is I don't know. Status is a weird thing because I always learned, I think Sylvester Stallone's father taught him that you should treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
And I was grateful enough to have parents who taught me the same way from a very young age. My parents owned a pizzeria. Pretty much my sister and I, we lived in the back of a pizzeria. So I watched people come in that had this crazy high status, and I watched these people that came in that had this quote unquote, low totem pole status. But I treated them the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, these days, we do look at the CEO. I mean, like most people look at the CEO and they're like, wow, he drives a Lamborghini and he's got a Ferrari and he's got a, 15 bedroom house and 12 bathrooms and he could use one twice a week if he wanted to. It is what it is. And then you look at somebody renting. I look at that person the same way. Two different people, but they have the same blood.
Yeah.
They bleed the same blood. So just because they maybe did better in their life doesn't mean that they are better. I mean, sometimes people do work harder, but other times some people have the opportunity to do things that someone else doesn't. The other person does have to work harder to get there. And I agree with that wholeheartedly.
When did you first realize you didn't feel like you were where you should be in life? In quotes, should be in life.
It's a real philosophical question.
It is.
I don't think I've ever felt like I should be where I'm supposed to be. I think probably coming out of the womb, I was like, damn, time to move on. Like, what the hell am I doing? I'm already late. By the time I was born, I was like, damn, I should have a house by now. I should be married by now.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever felt like I was in the right spot.
that might lend itself to like our problems in this day and age of social media. You're constantly comparing yourself to
Yes.
other people, and then, like, at least in this economy, we're concerned. At least I compare myself to my parents.
But it's hard to
Yeah.
because they lived a different generation.
No.
Like their generation was you could have a single income. You could have
Yeah.
the woman stay home or the man stay home, depending on who was working.
Mhm.
They would have a house, a car, 2 cars, be able to pay your mortgage. You'd be able to pay your kids' college fund. You'd be able to save. And that's all from one income. Now you have 2 people who work most of the time and they're renting. And
Yeah.
their rent is still crazy expensive.
Just about to say, and they're renting.
Yeah, and they're renting. They're not owning anything. We've been designed to lease everything. And I don't think it's
Yeah.
just leasing financial wise. I think we lease friends. I think we lease love. I think we lease a lot of different things.
It's a scary thing to think about.
It is a scary thing to think
Lease
about.
love.
Yeah, I think we lease things these days. We don't really own them anymore. The older we get, the less we actually own things, and it's very hard to go back. And that kind of goes back to where your first question is my ability to accept things as they are.
Mm.
I seem to ponder a lot on, man, I wish that I lived in a time like that. I kind of wish that I was 20 years older than I am now. at this time, because
Yeah.
20 years ago, I would have been getting by a lot better. You would have been getting by a lot better.
Yeah.
Everybody would have been getting by a lot better.
It's like the joke of, oh well, if I were like a boomer, I'd have a 1970 Dodge Challenger, working part time at a gas station, and still have money to go to college, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. I always wanted more growing up. I always wanted more. I hated school. I was a terrible student. I cut classes over and over again. I went to vocational school for automotive. I always loved auto mechanics. I was always really good with my hands. And then my friend, who unfortunately passed away, he told me, he's like, you're like the mayor everywhere you go. You talk to everyone. You want to know what everyone's about. He goes, I just got into being a stockbroker. He goes, I think you'd be really good. I thought it was going to be cool until I was making like $250 a week, working like 50 to 60 hours. So my boss didn't have to deal with all the responses of F you and go kill yourself for the 800 phone calls that I made a day, and maybe sold one to one person. But my ego went a little crazy when I started working for a huge company. I loved working for that company. It was good. The money was good. But I think that, pride wise, that's probably when I felt my best, was when I worked in that sense, for like always wanting more. I think that was probably the only time I really, really felt like I was in a good place, because I felt like I had a top tier job. Like everybody I told, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a financial advisor. I work on Wall Street. They're just like, oh, that's like high, it's high. So more women wanted to talk to me. More friends wanted to be around me. I had more money to waste, I guess we'll call it. But it humbles you really quick, because I knew a lot of people who would buy 6 Series BMWs, and then when they couldn't pay for it, because I'm a saver, they'd be like, "Oh, Vin, can I borrow, a couple of $1,000s? I got to pay for my mortgage, and I got to pay for my 6 Series BMW or my 8 Series." And I'm just like, "No, man, like I saved my money. You're pissing it away.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're living rich, but you're not really rich."
This is a bit of a tangent, but we should probably have a separate episode on just like finance stuff.
Yeah,
Just like
I would like that.
basic finance stuff, because I
Yeah.
feel like that's just not taught in school.
No, it's not.
It's not taught.
It's
I
not taught
was
at all in
thankfully
school.
taught. And like in my line of work, I see it all the time, sadly, where it's like people don't even understand what negative equity on a vehicle means. So it's like crazy to me. So I feel like that would be an interesting subject to just dedicate an episode to at some point.
Yeah, it would be a really good episode. And again, the whole human factor thing is about things like that. It's the fact that we don't have a school system that actually teaches you real world necessities. They teach you about the president, the first president. They teach you about Lincoln. They teach you about a war that happened, or this and that. Like, you want to, if I had kids, like
Yeah.
I would want my kids to know how to balance a checkbook. Like, nobody
course.
balances a checkbook anymore. I don't do it anymore, because it's so easy for my bank, my app on my phone, to just say, "Hey, you spent this much money this week or this month on food or your bills or this and that." And then at the end of the year, you get an itemized,
Yeah.
structured statement that says everything. So you don't need to do it.
Sure.
But if you know how to do it, it's so beneficial.
I think most people probably don't know what to do with the information either. Like if you
No.
get that thing at the end of the year, they're gonna be like, okay, so I spent all this money on food.
They
How
have
do
no
I-"
idea what to look at.
Yeah.
They have no
So
idea what to look at.
separate thing.
We'll get on it another day. But what I do
Yeah.
have to say is, I find it very comical these days how people don't understand that if you make $100 and you spend $101, you are negative.
Yeah, you're -1.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, but I have a credit card. Yeah, but that credit card is 30% interest.
Yeah. You get
On that
always
$1. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you're never going to catch up. But
No.
that's neither here nor there. We can do that another time.
All right, here's a spicy one.
Okay.
What belief about yourself has caused you the most pain, and are you still carrying it?
Yeah. That is a daily task that we all are challenged with, is the fact that we're not all good enough for ourselves or anybody else. I don't think I've ever felt good enough.
I think that ties into the first thing we
Previous,
talked
yeah.
about with being a people pleaser.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with it, because I understand your answer to this question, because I feel the same way. Okay, here's another deep one for you.
Mm.
Do you think people can truly change, or do we mostly learn how to hide better?
I don't think
Ooh.
anybody changes unless there's trauma. you have to have some kind of significant, extreme thing happen to you for change. For men, I think change happens when you hit rock bottom. And by rock bottom, we can call something like heartbreak will make a man change.
Okay.
Because you'll see a lot of men who will be overweight. They're in a relationship. They have good self esteem. They're whatever else. And then they get dumped,
Mm.
whether they're in a month or 3 month or 3 year or 10 year, because I think they got complacent. And then all of a sudden you can change because of the trauma, that the hurt makes you want to be something else. So you see these guys, they start going to the gym, they start getting therapy, they start meeting other people, and they learn salsa or some kind of other dancing or just whatever. They learn
Yeah.
paddleboarding, they do all these things, and then they change. But when they're in the relationship, they don't change because they're complacent. So I know that the question wasn't based off of a relationship
Mhm.
aspect, but I honestly think that for a man, heartbreak is the number one way to change. I would also say that the death of a loved one
I was just thinking that.
is a good surface for change. I honestly think that change is the worst and the best thing that can happen to you, because a lot of people think that you just change and that's it. You can't change and build a good skyscraper on an old foundation, we'll call it. So just I'm just saying it just off the top of my head here. Like, you need a new foundation. And I think trauma is the foundation that makes you start building new.
Okay.
Now, even though you're starting from the beginning, you build stronger. So I do think that people can change, but I think that people need to have a traumatic event for them to change. I don't think anybody changes without actually having something happen.
If that's the case, do you think that change can't be like learned in a way? Or do you think that there's a threshold where if, like, for example, I can't remember what the figure is, but it's like if you do something enough times, it becomes a habit, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that there's truth to that and merit to that? Or
Well,
do
they
you
say if
think
for anything that you put 10,000 hours into, you become a master at.
Okay.
So a basketball player, you put 10,000 hours into it, you become a professional basketball player, at least if the NBA will take you.
And you're tall enough.
And you're tall enough, yeah, which you and I are like the Muggsy Bogues of basketball. We're space jamming it on the
Oh my God.
less than 6 foot lane. But it's just a tough question. It's a tough question in that aspect.
What does success mean to you now compared to what it meant to you when you were younger? We kind of touched on this a little bit, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, like I had said, when you're young, you want money, you want to be the cool guy, you want the nice car.
Mhm.
I mean, if you really think about it from a guy's perspective, when you're in high school, the girls that are in high school, who do they date? They date the college guys. They
Yeah.
date the guys that have the car. If you're looking at it from a trying to attract a mate standpoint, usually younger girls go for guys that are more situated. And when you look at guys that are younger too, they, such as myself, want to be in a high position. You want to be the CEO of a company. You want to be a financial advisor. You want to be, the guy who makes a whole bunch of money that you can just pay for things for everywhere. Like I used to love going out to eat, like, and just being able to pay for everyone and not even think about it. It was nice. Now looking back at it, yeah, $100, or $200 or wherever you went, but you do it enough times, your bank account starts reflecting it, and that's where I started changing and just saving more.
Does that circle back to the people pleasing aspect?
And that's always going to be the people pleasing aspect, is you want smiles around you. And for smiles, as a car guy, it's smiles per gallon,
Yes,
and gallons cost money,
they do.
especially these
Especially
days.
right now.
With that being said, I mean, as a younger guy, like I said, status, cool this, cool title, more money, but it's different for everyone. I think that as you get older, you start recognizing that status is not everything. It's just going back on it. It's that whole
Okay.
CEO janitor thing.
Yeah. So yeah, what does that success look like for you now?
Success to me looks like wearing a t-shirt and ripped jeans compared to the perfectly fitted Armani suit that is attractive to look at but super uncomfortable to wear. Success is not driving a Ferrari, as to where, success is subjective.
Okay.
So, I mean, we both know we worked on high-end cars.
Yeah.
When you work on Ferraris or you work on Porsches or Lamborghinis, how many Rolls Royces have we been in?
A bunch at this point.
Yeah, way too many to say.
Some had French fries in the back seat.
Exactly. But when you drive 458 Italias,
Yeah.
when you're a kid or someone young who never has the opportunity to work at some place like we have done before, your dream is to get into one of those cars.
Yeah.
Until you have the car. And then you get the car and you're like, this is fun for a little bit. You get, like anything else, you get used to it.
Mhm.
You don't appreciate it as much as the journey, they say, is better than the ending result.
Okay.
So the journey to get that car, I think, is better than actually having the car. And I do have friends that have Ferraris and, Audis and everything else, and they like them, but you get to drive it once a week. So for me, success these days would probably be meet somebody that I love, that loves me just as much, if not more, to have a life of smiles and happiness, and to have a car that gets you from A to B. And if we're lucky enough, which we are, another car that's somewhat inexpensive that also gets you to C in some style, considering we drive the same car, just different colors. Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, I don't think any amount of XYZ is going to make you happy. I think you're going to be happy when you want to be happy. And I think the happiest people in the world are the people who have the least and appreciate it. Because you can meet so many people who have nothing from other countries. I don't think that there's a lot of people in the United States, because
It's a cultural
we're always going to
problem
get
here.
back into it with
Yeah.
this whole social media thing and everything. And the cultural thing is that I think that so many other people are happy with the stick and tire, like the old school. And for younger generations, the older generation, when they didn't have all the technology, we're talking 100 years ago, they used to put a tire and use a stick and roll that tire with it. And that was their fun. They played with dolls, they did things like that. Now you have kids these days that are 12 years old and they want the brand new Samsung Fold that's $2,000 or the top of the line iPhone. So the threshold for happiness is getting worse and worse. And especially with the attention span, we get very caught up in feeling like what we have isn't enough. And I think we are all more than rich. As long as you can eat every single day, you're dry when it rains outside, you have someone to talk to, a shoulder to cry on if you're lucky enough to have that, somebody to lay with at night, which is becoming less and less. Somebody who appreciates you and you can appreciate them and you help each other grow. I think that that's probably the most successful thing in this entire world.
Means you're a very rich man.
Yeah, I'm missing a couple of things, but hopefully within time they will come to me.
God willing, yeah.
Yeah.
What emotion do you struggle with expressing the most, and why?
I mean, we'll circle back to it. It's always going to be being truly happy. I have fallen into that trap of I look at the Joneses or the Smiths and I'm like, damn, they've got so much and I've worked so hard and I have a lot, but it never feels like enough.
I feel like that might be skewed by some of your, the people you grew up with, owning multiple businesses and having like a ranch and this and that. I don't know, I might skew that a little bit. You don't know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, where you live, your proximity to things, your geographical location. Like we live in a place that before COVID
Yeah.
was extremely inexpensive. I mean, when I first moved here and I met people, they're like, "Oh yeah, my rent for a 2-bedroom is $600." And I'm like, "That's crazy," because in New York, an illegal underground apartment that you literally go to the bathroom and cook your food in the same room is $1,200 to $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
And now the cost of living here
Now that's like $3,000 in New York.
is, yeah, that's $3,000 in New York, but that's $3,000 in Florida too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, granted, we have sunshine and palm trees, so I would much rather have that than the stone jungle over there, the concrete jungle. But it's very hard to be happy when you see so many other people have happiness. Like I would never wish bad on anybody. I see people in love and it's like, it's beautiful that they have love. I see people that have that Ferrari and it's like, it's really cool because they get to drive that every single day. But I don't think that it's something that I should be looking at the way I look at it a lot of the times, and I'm working on that because I do have a good family. I've got a lot of good friends. I got a lot of good in my life that I think a lot of people wish that they had.
I think so.
I remember it was a little skit, like a little thing on Facebook. It popped up years ago, and it was a guy in a wheelchair. He was looking at a guy in a Bugatti, and the guy in the Bugatti was looking up at a helicopter with a guy in a helicopter, and he's like, "Man, I wish I had that helicopter." And then the guy driving the helicopter was looking at a guy that had a private jet, and he's like, "Man, that would be so cool to have a private jet." And then it goes back to the guy in the wheelchair, and he's like, "Man, I wish I could walk."
I think I've seen that skit or like a variation of it.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, you and I,
It's like
we,
a little
yeah,
like a
and like
comic strip, like a
like we can walk
yeah.
and we can run, and we take it for granted every single day. Like, you don't realize it. I was telling Lori before, there was this thing that I saw a while ago, and it was a picture of birds, and it said, you know, I envy birds so much because they can just get up and they can just fly wherever they want and go wherever they want whenever they want.
Yeah.
And getting back to that second life thing, you don't realize it, but so can you. So can we. We can literally get up and go anywhere whenever we want. It's just resistance that keeps us from going. It's that fear of moving towards something that we really, really, really want to do because we're scared.
I think we should put a pin in that, and that needs to be its own episode.
It could be.
Is like the fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
and
There's a book.
What holds people from advancing either in their career, their personal life, or just making big life decisions. Like, I think that deserves its an entire episode.
No, I agree too. But to get back to it, there's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Okay.
And I had a lot of anxiety growing up. I had panic attacks, things like that. And I read this book, and I don't remember the author of it, but it said literally, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Mm.
And that book was the catalyst for my ability to talk to anybody and want to push myself to better myself. The resistance is getting up in the morning when you're tired. Like, David Goggins is like the king of this.
Yeah.
Everybody makes fun of him, but he might be a little rough around the edges, but he's like the most resistance resistant. Like, he gets up when he is tired as hell. A lot of people look for motivation, and the problem with motivation is discipline is much better than motivation, because discipline is what's going to get you up in the morning when you're tired. As to motivation, doesn't really last very long.
Yeah.
You feel it while you're in the gym, but once you're tired and you're done. But discipline says, no, I said I'm going to do 13 reps and I'm going to do 4 sets instead of 3. And then it push it and you do it.
To circle back, would that be, I guess discipline would be required to change behavior. And I wonder if discipline is something that can be, I guess discipline can be learned.
Discipline
But
is
to
definitely something
But to
learned.
like what extent, I wonder.
It's what you are willing to give up.
Because some people aren't willing to give things up and others are.
No. And here's a perfect example. We live in a society where there's a lot of obese people, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know what? You want to be heavy, you have health problems, whatever it is, understood. But the person, I've seen these transformation videos of people that are 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're these attractive men and women that are, they've gotten surgery to get rid of the skin. They weigh 160 pounds now. They're crazy muscular, but resistance didn't stop them. Discipline kept them going. The motivation fades. I mean, you think about it in the morning, you get up, you're recharged, you go to work. Within 3 or 4 hours, you go to work, especially, you're just like, oh, I can't wait to go home.
Yeah.
But you have discipline because of the clock. The clock ticking is your discipline. It's not personally you saying, I'm going to do it, but the clock keeps you there for 8 or 9 hours. So technically, in that aspect, your clock is your discipline. So when you look at it 2 in the morning on a Saturday morning when you're not working, or Sunday morning when you're not working, you get up in the morning and you're just like, damn, I slept like 2 hours later than I want. It feels good to sleep, but I got 2 hours less of living today.
Yeah.
My mom says it all the time. You can sleep when you're dead.
I say that sometimes.
There you go. You can sleep when you're dead.
Right, honey?
Unfortunately,
Sleep when you're dead.
you sleep when you're dead. But unfortunately, when you're alive, it is hard to get up. But that's the motivation fading, and that's when the discipline needs to kick in and the resistance to push out of the way. You need to have resilience, and you need to just say, I'm doing it.
What's something you wish someone had told you earlier about being human?
That you'll never get out of this life.
There's 2 things that are absolute death and taxes.
Death and taxes. I'm going to give you something that you probably never heard of.
Okay.
Life is a sexually transmitted terminal disease.
I think you've told me this.
Yeah. And I heard it once before, and it has stuck with me forever. And I'll say it again for the
Isn't
listeners.
that from a movie?
I don't think I've ever heard it in a movie.
No?
One of my clients, he was like 88 years old.
Oh my
This guy was
God.
amazing. He was the coolest guy ever. And he told me one
88-year-old
time,
dude.
yeah, this guy was like 100 millionaire, if not more. He was the coolest down to earth guy. And he told me, he said, Vin, life is a sexually transmitted terminal disease. He's like, and you're not going to get out alive. So you're better off,
That sounds so bad.
right? It does, but it's not. It lights a fire under you too, if you really think about it. And no matter what we talk about, the questions you're asking me or like what this podcast
Yeah.
is about, it's always about the same thing. It's about the fact that we live in a time where everything is automated, where everything is easy, where you don't have to work as hard. And that's the unfortunate nature of kids these days, is they're never going to understand what it feels like to call a girl's house and worry about her brother picking up the phone that you like, or her parents, and you're
right.
embarrassed, or you have no idea where the hell your friends are. So you have to ride your bike 10 miles around the neighborhood to get to every friend's house to see where everybody's bicycles just piled up on the front lawn,
Yeah.
because it's not, hey man, you didn't call me today. What the hell? It's, damn, I didn't get up early enough to start riding my bike to figure out where everybody was going to be. Because, it starts as me getting to
Yeah.
your house, you going to her house, her going to, and then all of us just congregating somewhere.
These are like problems that the current generation like can't grasp.
No, because, we're in a generation where to watch the movie we wanted, we would have to go to a store
Yeah.
or a library and
I
rent
did that
the movie.
as a kid. Yeah.
You used to go to Blockbuster Video or like Hollywood
Literally
Video,
Blockbuster. Yeah.
and you used to rent the movie, and they only had 2 or 3 copies.
Or sometimes they didn't have it at all.
Or
and
they
you're
didn't have it at
"Damn,
all."
I gotta wait till next week.
Exactly. And you only had that movie for X amount of time,
Yeah.
which was crazy. So like the fact that you can just wake up at 2:00 in the morning, oh man, I got to go to the bathroom. You sit on the toilet and you watch whatever the hell movie you want, or you scroll over and over and just
Kinda
doom scroll
crazy to think
constantly.
about, though.
It is very surreal. And that's what scares me about technology, is because even though it is helping us so significantly, especially with like AI and things like that,
Okay.
we are losing the human factor.
Okay.
That's a good little plug there, right?
I do like that.
Right? It's a good
That'll be a
plug.
nice sound bite for the wifey to
Yeah.
like, bam.
The human factor.
YouTube snippet. TikTok. Okay.
So yeah, so that's what it was. It would be like, you'll never get out alive.
My question though is this: because while I like both things we just discussed, I'm struggling mentally to tie the both together. How can we relate the concept of like current generation doesn't understand going to Blockbuster to 88-year-old Mr. Magoo told you that life is not a box of chocolates, but is a terminal STD.
Yeah.
How do we mesh the two there, those two things? Because I don't know why, but that completely glazed over my head, and I'm like, I
don't think that the youth will understand it. I think no matter how you put it, it's
like how did you interpret that when he told you life is like
a sexually transmitted terminal disease.
Yeah, what did you think about? Like, and
I
did he
didn't
explain
choose-
himself?
I didn't choose to be here. You didn't choose to be here.
Okay,
Your wife didn't choose to be here,
but we're here.
but we're here. So we have 2 options.
Okay,
We have the option to be a victim
okay,
the whole time and say, it's too hard. I'm not doing this anymore. And, unfortunately, I've had friends who have committed suicide because they've felt that life was just too hard. I know people whose family members, or, you see it all the time. Something, you have people who you would never admit, like, Robin Williams, when Robin Williams committed
Yeah.
suicide, that killed me inside. I think that started like a huge tornado inside me, that how can someone that's so happy and brings so much joy to others,
people pleaser.
people pleaser? And that's what thank you for reading my mind on that. It's being a people pleaser. Because internally, you can't make yourself happy. So the best thing you can do is make everyone around you happy. And, you know me as joking around all the time. This podcast might be a little bit more serious.
Sure.
But you're joking around all the time. And the company that we keep is always joking around all the time. I mean, your significant other comes up with amazing one hitters that are just make you laugh, and just, I don't know where she comes up with the stuff. It's one-off stuff.
One of the many reasons why I adore her.
Yes, she is wonderful. But people don't sit in that same frame of mind anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that whole Blockbuster renting a video and having to wait for something, everything's at our fingertips these days. So being that it's at our fingertips, we lose the appreciation for it. It's kind of, and I'll just circle this because I'm sure you have another question for me. I'll leave it at this. When you have everything given to you, you don't appreciate anything. And I think a lot of kids these days have zero appreciation or
Yeah.
understanding what the value of a dollar is. Because,
Yeah.
you know, when I said I wanted a car and I watched my friends get a car,
Mhm.
my parents said, okay, good. Continue working, go get a job. And I was like, oh man, okay, now I got the car. I was working. I made, I worked this whole summer. I spent $1,500 on a car, which back then, was a lot of money 20 something years ago. And then I was like, all right, this is how much insurance is. And they're like, we don't care. You're paying for that. And I'm like, you're not even going to pay for my insurance? And my mom and dad were like, no, absolutely not. You want a car, you pay for it. You want insurance, you pay for it. You want a cell phone, you pay for it. You want those Nikes, you pay for them. Granted, when I was a kid, they bought me a G.I. Joe here and there. But let me tell you, I cherished that G.I. Joe. I remember I had a RoboCop figurine. That figurine I played with, no joke, for like 8 years. Every single Lego, which Legos were super cheap back then.
Yeah.
But every single Lego that I built, which was far and few between, every little plastic army figurine, all those things, I kept building to the same war field, we'll call it, the Batman, the Batmobile, or the Ghostbuster house, or things like that. It was all things that, my parents bought for me growing up, but they were a lot more inexpensive compared to toys these days. And it was like, I got one for my birthday. I got one for Christmas. So it was like, you got 3 toys a year. So those 3 toys, it was nice that you got those toys. Now kids are like, they get a toy, 10 seconds later, they forgot they got the toy and they forget totally about it. I always told, I have friends that have kids, and I was like, if you repackaged those toys for next week and gave it to them, they probably never remember that they had that toy last week.
It's interesting you say that. That reminds me of a video I saw recently where this guy like cleaned up he's like a toddler, like the girl's like, I don't know, 2 or less. And it's just an interesting experiment he runs with her where he like pretty much cleans everything up, puts away a majority of the toys, and only leaves out like a select few, like some stuff, plushies, and like some books. And like the kid's kind of like, oh, everything's gone, okay, and then proceeds to then play with those
Just the
select
2
things.
toys.
Yeah, and they're fine.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like we're conditioned to have too much stuff.
Well,
sometimes.
our life is based on having a lot of stuff.
I think we can tie it back because I think what this boils down to is the previous one of struggling to be happy. It boils down to appreciation.
Yep.
And I think we have a fundamental problem where people don't appreciate the things that they have.
And that's people included.
Yes.
Because the day and age that we live in with swipe left, swipe right is everybody thinks the grass is greener on the other side. And I have done quite a bit of reading, to say the least, quite a bit. I've spent hours and hours and hours over the last couple of months studying relationship books and self-help and just where you sit in the world, we'll call it. And a lot of people think the grass is greener on the other side. A lot of people think that other guy or girl that they see on social media is a better aspect for them, is a better prospect for them.
Mhm.
In the meantime, the chances of you finding that kind of person is very far and few between. It has been statistically proven it is better to be with the devil you know than the devil you don't know. And we put these curated fantasies that we see on social media to such a high regard that we're like, we deserve that. But in reality, we don't. You might be this average looking guy. You're most likely not going to get that ridiculously good looking girl. It's just a hierarchy. It is what it is, And if you're a really good looking girl, you have your option to choose what you want. If you're a really good looking guy, you have the option to choose what you want. So I just think we live in a really weird time because the whole time is flipped.
Yeah.
There used to be a very traditional aspect, and now with how much things cost, and again, getting off topic here.
And this
it's
has all
just-
been like accelerating in the last like 20 years.
Yes.
It's
So
like,
it
boom.
used to be very linear.
Yes. And
like,
now it's like
it's
with
just
the
a
ramp of
straight curve.
technology, it's
Yeah.
kinda
It's just a
crazy.
straight curve upwards.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even a ramp. because at least a ramp has a little bit of an angle to it. This is just a straight up curve. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going up, you're falling straight down. So we're not used to that. Humans are not used to taking in this much information. So it's just I feel kind of bad for the next generation. And that's why we're here, is
We have to prepare them.
to help them. And
Yeah.
if I can get this message out to just say, hey, what you have is enough, or who you're with is enough, or just because things aren't that great doesn't mean you can't fix them. Now, granted, I don't want to say, hey, listen, you're in an abusive relationship that's
No,
physically or, mentally abusive, that you should stay there, because you absolutely
of
should
course.
not be in that relationship. And that's presence to that means you should move on.
But there's a line where it's
But there is a
like
line, like you
things
get
are
into an
fixable instead of just
exactly.
crumpling them and throwing them away.
Exactly. People have become especially in relationships, and I've
Yeah.
used this. If you've ever seen the movie Fight Club, we've become single serving packets of ketchup friends and lovers. So people meet each other, they have a good time, and once the honeymoon phase is over, they feel like love is gone, and it's not. And that honeymoon phase could be so intense, and like I've had,
Yeah, we've talked about this
yeah, I mean,
with
I've had a relationship where the honeymoon phase was, I can't even express it to you, the amount of joy it felt, what it gave me. And then once you start weaning off that dopamine, I would hope to not be in that situation. But a lot of people, both people will feel like, oh, well, now I don't feel comfortable anymore being here because I don't have that love like we had. Like, people don't understand when you're in a relationship is that an argument is not a means to an end.
yeah.
I dated someone that we broke up like a ridiculous amount of times and got back together. It was just
I know.
it was just stupid. Um, and I kept staying because I grew up with
You're
parents who have been together for 46, 47 years of marriage now.
trying
You
to
know,
water the grass.
exactly. You water the grass to make it green. You don't go somewhere else where the grass is greener, because eventually that grass is going to die.
Yeah.
You're going to use that grass, and that grass is going to die. So, I stayed in that relationship because I believed in it, which I shouldn't have.
Mm.
And I don't like giving up on things that I believe in. And getting back to what we were saying is, people just give up very quickly these days. And there would be a lot less divorces. There would be a lot more people happy if they were just willing to take accountability for their actions.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, I did do wrong. I am sorry that I hurt you. As I'm getting older, now at least I realize it. I wish I could have gone back, and like going back to your initial questions, like I wish I could go back and say, I am wrong. I'm sorry I hurt you. Let's talk about it and move forward from here. I'm going to do my best to not do that anymore. But you also wish that you have somebody that also does the same thing too, because it can't just be one-sided.
Of course.
Because then
It
you're
won't
just
work if
giving
it's
into
one-sided.
everything. Exactly.
Both
You're just
parties
giving
have
into
to
everything.
water the grass.
Yeah.
I've known you a long time. You are an appreciative person. You're not one to take things for granted.
Thank you.
So my question is that what do you feel in your life you think you need to appreciate more to potentially give you happiness or allow you to express happiness?
Myself.
People pleaser.
I need to appreciate myself more. I have a lot to give, and I have been master of everything that I touch. And I'm not trying to be cocky. I'm just saying in general.
I know.
I've been an
You're
electrician.
like an everyman.
Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse, because that's when everybody
Yeah.
calls you to fix everything for them.
Can I borrow your truck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I borrow your truck? Can you come over and help me with my toilet? Can you come change a light? Can you fix my car? Can you help me with the sheetrock? I mean, I've been everything: an electrician, a plumber. I've done finance. I've been a mason. I've done everything. So I think that with the amount of abilities that I have, I mean, these hands can build a house. They can fix a relationship, and they can break one too.
Mhm.
Not just in the love aspect, but like friendship aspects too. I think that I don't give myself enough credit. And that's one thing that I need to start appreciating more, because even though I do have some toys, those toys I've noticed over the years have been slowly being sold off. I mean, there was a time 7 years ago where all I wanted to do was buy a Sprinter van, I had all the
I
blueprints.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, when we
Like,
first met, I
mhm.
think 7 or 8. I think we met like 7 years ago, something like that. Or no, 6 years ago. We've been friends.
Like
I think 6 years,
7.
maybe 7 years
I
ago.
think it's
Because I think
7.
I've been in the state for almost 8 or 9 years now,
2019, I believe. 7 now.
possibly. So 7 years. Yeah.
7.
I mean, I had all the blueprints for building this Sprinter van. I had everything, and then I met somebody, and the dream went out the window with meeting them because obviously I wanted to give them all of myself, and you can't be in a relationship with that person when they live here, and I'm traveling the
Yeah,
United
dude.
States. Um, you know how hard it is, especially more than anybody that I know for a long distance relationship.
Oh,
Going
yeah.
overseas to find someone, especially as wonderful as she is,
She's over
is
there nodding.
yeah, well, she is wonderful.
She's lovely.
She is. You got very lucky.
I feel very blessed.
Yes. So, it's very hard to do the long distance relationship, and I envy the fact that you were able to go so long to legally have her come here
She's
and
worth it.
and give her that love and her give you that love when you're not together, and just be honest with each other. Because some people can live next door, and if I work all day long,
Still cheat.
yeah, it's crazy to me.
Terrible.
But yeah, I think it's just myself. I need to give myself more credit. I think that's the word, is credit. I need to love myself more, realize that,
You should.
yeah,
You're
It's
a great
hard.
guy,
thanks, man.
and I love you.
I love you too, dude.
know?
It's touching to hear
You
that.
are my part of the Knights Circle.
Yeah.
Table. If I
We're-
had to go to
we're the
war,
wolf pack.
if I had to go to war or whatever, and I was King Arthur, you would be there.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm also the one fixing the castle.
you're like, yo, this table's a little
You're like-
uneven. Let me
you're-
stick a playing card on here. Even a table out.
I'm the one doing the magic for everybody to be happy, and then you're like, "Hey, the toilet's not working," and I'm like, "It's a rock, dude. You just poop in the rock. There's nothing wrong with it." But all right, I'll take a look if that's the problem. So
When do you feel most like yourself, and when do you feel the furthest from who you really are?
in a completely vulnerable sense, I always feel more like myself when with a significant other. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
A woman really brings that.
Oh, I was gonna say
Yeah,
me,
no,
sorry.
I love you too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know what it is.
yo,
But
softy.
having someone really brings out me.
I feel there's a song that was written about that.
Is it?
A little, Dean Martin.
It could. Yes, that's right. Yep, it's true.
You're nobody till somebody
Nobody
loves you.
till somebody loves you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like having somebody helps me be me. Like it complements me. It's not me. Like I guess I could be me by myself. But I think a lot of people can also agree with me that when you have someone else, it brings out something in you that's dormant. And it just makes you a better person. And even when you're in a bad part of a relationship, you're arguing. And again, I tried going back to the last question, is like arguments are inevitable. And I wish more people would understand that
Yeah.
arguing in a relationship is normal because you grow from that. You only don't grow from that unless you hold it in and you just go to sleep on it and wake up happy the next day, because then it just builds resentment,
Mm-hmm.
but that's not what we're talking about here. I think having a significant other really does complement me. I like the fact of feeling better about myself and who else I can also compliment. I guess I also feel the most like myself, just like everybody else, kind of like when we're alone on our own thoughts. Our inner dialogue, our inner monologue
Okay.
is very cut to our vulnerability. Like you and I have a conversation, we're also having a conversation to ourselves. Even before we say something, it takes a millisecond to answer, but it takes half a millisecond for me to say, okay, it's right to say that or not say that. So I honestly think that if I'm alone in my own thoughts, I'm also dangerous, because I can go for hours and hours. Like I can lay in bed I slept an hour and a half last night if I was lucky. So that means that for like 8 hours that I was laying down in bed, I was just thinking to myself prior to falling to sleep and then after waking up. And I actually learned something really, really interesting.
Okay.
Did you know that you can't have inner monologue if you focus on your peripheral vision? I want you to try this after the show. And for people,
I'm gonna try it right now.
you
Hold on.
can't because there's other things going around. There's other things going on. You have noise, whatever. But when you're lying down in bed later by yourself, or anybody who's listening, okay, if you are looking straight forward, and you can learn to do this with your eyes closed, then because I learned this today, and I kind of got good at it already. 'Cause
Wait, what?
Yeah. So if you're fixated on something, and you have an inner dialogue, monologue, whatever you want to call it, going on, and yeah, I see you trying it,
Trying
and
it,
you
yeah.
start focusing on your peripheral vision, you can't think. And here's another thing: like the way it works is like a baby can breathe while they're swallowing. I don't know if you knew that. You cannot.
I see.
And everybody's here doing it. It's like me saying pink elephant. Everybody thinks a pink elephant.
Yeah.
So up till right after infancy, for some reason, your throat changes. I don't know if it's like an evolutionary thing, but as a baby, as an infant, you can actually breathe while you're swallowing.
Okay.
And that's because when a mother is breastfeeding,
Okay.
the baby's breathing while they're feeding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's weird because the person that I learned this from when I was doing the homework on it today, because I was sitting in bed and I'm like, damn, this sucks. Like I've been sitting here for hours just driving myself nuts thinking about stuff. And somebody, I don't remember their name, they did this huge study, this huge, university study. And they said that if you focus on your peripheral vision, you cannot have an inner conversation with yourself. And it works. You're going to see after this, you're going to try it when you're lying down in bed tonight. You're going to try it. It's obviously not what you're focusing on right now, but when you're focused on something else, your brain cannot have a conversation. And I thought it was full of it.
It feels funny. I feel like I can, but I also can't at the same time.
Exactly. So
Like-
try it later.
Like
We'll
I'm
get
sitting
to
here
it.
staring at. I'm sorry. Now I'm like hyper fixated on this.
Yeah.
I'm like staring at the wall, and then I'm talking to myself in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm staring at the wall, and I'm looking at the wall, and then I'm looking at my wife over in the corner, and she's on her phone over there, and like the thing. But I'm like, the inner monologue is about what I'm seeing in the peripheral. So like, is that cheating? Am I supposed to be thinking about something else as the inner monologue while simultaneously focusing
No,
over there?
for what I
like,
understand.
what's the
No, for what I understand, you're thinking too much into it now. This is not we're on a podcast. She's doing something over there. We have lights facing us. There's cameras. There's microphones. We're trying to have a conversation here. This is you're sitting in bed later, lying down. There's no sound.
Okay.
You can be in the dark. You can be whatever it is. As long as you can see something a little bit. You look at something and you hear yourself talking. And then all of a sudden you start focusing off to the side, which obviously you can't focus on because it's off to the side. And then for some reason, your brain just stops. And
This is so funny.
if anybody out of an hour and change that will be on here, if anybody gets anything out of this, whether you like this or not, I hope this fixes your anxiety, because it would be so cool if we lived in a world where like this person that I learned this thing from, it's so simple, and now you no longer like need medication and or all these other things.
So really quick, because you were talking about being alone with your thoughts or whatever, and I thought to myself, like, I think there's a name for that. It's called anxiety.
Yeah, so
right?
it is anxiety, and
So
it's debilitating sometimes.
Yes, and you and I both are like this, where we're like we hyper focus on stuff, and it drives us, it makes us miserable, right? So my question is this weird technique of like trying to do this thing where you're trying to like essentially breathe and swallow at the same time, but not really, like you're trying to think about the peripheral and while having the monologue. Is that a trick to get out of your own head? Is that what you're telling us here?
I think that if
or is this
you
something
and
funny you found?
I think that if I'm staring there and you're staring there during this podcast, we really just need to go to a mental facility. That's just two crazy people, trying to figure out life at the wrong place in the wrong time.
Oh my God. Okay.
Just try it later. And for
All
anybody
right.
else listening, when you're done with this, just try it. Quiet room, by yourself, look at something, but try to focus on your peripheral. And that doesn't mean to like
Wow.
look over
Inner
to the side. Yeah, while trying to have an inner monologue. You really can't. It's just a weird thing. It's like it just stops you. And it's freaky because it works for me. I can't promise it'll work for you, but you're going to let me know tomorrow.
Fun.
Okay,
Yes.
deal.
I was laughing because I'm like, we're going to be trying to go to bed tonight because we have to get up early.
I can see you and Lori like this.
I'm going to be in the middle of the night like, honey, he's right. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, try it
Anyway.
out.
The last part of the question is, when are you the furthest from who you really are? Is that when you're trying to do the trick of the splitting of the
Yeah, I think when we have our monologue going on inside,
too far?
we are the closest that we are to
Okay,
ourselves.
but where's the furthest?
The furthest is when you're not being genuine to yourself. And that's going out wearing what you feel comfortable and what's obviously acceptable in society.
When you have to, like,
Yes, exactly. Like there's the whole mask that
Yes.
people put on. Like people put on a mask every single day. You walk into a store. I don't, it's weird because like we live in a society where people just don't care anymore. They're miserable all the time. They push things out of the way. They don't hold doors open for anybody. They're just in their own world.
Yeah.
But that world is also so far from everyone else. So you're the closest to you, but you're the furthest from everyone else because you're in your own world because nobody else matters at that point. And that's what I'm kind of trying to get.
Okay.
I want everybody to get away from is just to start being a little bit more, just to acknowledge others around you.
I have an interesting thing I'd like to just give as a tidbit here because I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but the thing of being like stuck in your own world. I had that happen to me the other day.
Mhm.
I dropped her off for work. It's 7:30 in the morning and I'm at the gym. And I must have, I'm thinking I had a look on my face or something because I'm going up the stairs to the gym and inside the gym to the second floor and I'm like, like I'm gonna go work out, whatever. And I walk past this guy on the Stairmaster and he just blurts out to me. He's like, "Hey man, Jesus loves you."
That's really nice of him.
And it took me aback and I was like, "Thanks, man. You too." And then I kept walking. And I was completely in my own world until that hit me like a bolt of lightning. And I thought to myself, one of two things. I'm like, did I have such a resting bitch face because I was stuck in my own, just like hyper focused in how I feel at that moment, and I'm not thinking about anything else around me or how I'm being perceived by anyone else because I'm tired, I'm cranky, and whatever, right? And he saw me and thought, I'm gonna tell this guy to have a good day to get him out of that, right? Or was that divine intervention? Or maybe it's a little bit of both.
I think it is a little bit of both.
I think so too. I
Because-
think I had a terrible look on my face, and this guy said, "You know what? I'm gonna use the power of Jesus to kind of help him right now."
Well, how many
And
people?
it worked but then I'm sitting there doing arm bicep curls like this, and I'm like, man, I must have had a really terrible look on my face for that guy to tell me that Jesus
and
loves me.
and it
My
sits
goodness.
with you. See, but the
It's
thing
sat
is,
with me the
you're
entire day, and
but
I'm
that's
still
the
thinking
thing.
about it.
You're the type of person like who I am, who will also sit on that for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because you're like, somebody noticed how crappy I looked today. That means that everybody noticed how crappy
Yeah.
I looked today.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice how crappy I looked today. And not to say you were in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You just have your own life. You have your own thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's not to say you need to be a certain way around other people. You don't need to act a certain way. You're your own human being. People aren't going to tell you what to do. You're not going to tell other people what to do. It is what it is. Everybody does what they want. But you also have to just acknowledge your surroundings. If you are the type of person who is looking for a significant other, put a smile on your face. If you are the type of person who doesn't want to be spoken to and you're smiling on the totally opposite end, people are going to want to talk to you then. They're going to approach you. So that's that whole, hey, I'm wearing a police outfit, but I'm not a cop.
Yeah.
So don't treat me like one.
Yeah.
So you just had something going on with you and he could see it. But that's being a good person. That's what like the whole human factor is about. It's about being that person that says, hey, smile. And then they smile. How many times have I done it?
Yeah.
You just go up to somebody and say, hey, smile. And all of a sudden they start smiling. Like I went out with Ariel the other day,
It works because you're smiling too.
but it works because your innocence.
It's the way it's given. Because it was like, hey, smile.
Exactly.
wouldn't-
It
it
wasn't
wouldn't
like
be
it
the
wasn't like
same.
a grim, like, hey,
No.
smile. What's wrong with you? It's like, hey, smile.
It's the delivery too.
It's not, life ain't that bad. Like I went out with Ariel and I went to the mall and we were walking past someone. I was like, hey, smile. What's going on? And they started smiling. Like they were just like so mugged,
Yeah.
mean mugged. And then they just started smiling and they laughed. And, they were like, oh, have a nice day. And he was like, do you do this to everyone? I'm like, not everyone, but like, I kind of wish people did it to me.
Yeah.
Because I have those days where I don't realize that I have such a frown. And it actually takes more muscles to frown and be upset than it is to smile.
Yeah.
you know? And that's like a huge thing with anxiety too. I don't think people realize it, that crying and laughing are the same thing. If you really look at it, when you cry, what about it's the same thing. It's just one's a little bit deeper than the other one. But essentially it's the same because you can laugh to cry. People, sometimes I'll laugh so hard that I cry.
Laugh,
You
and
can't even breathe.
What fear has quietly influenced more of your decisions than you'd like to admit?
It's an easy question. Fear itself.
We just
Anything
talked
is,
about
yeah,
the book,
it's
though, right?
about the same thing. So pretty much this question is an already answered one. But yeah, it's fear itself. It's that resilience, the resistance to do anything. Because nobody wants to jump out of a plane, but everybody wants to say that they did it. Everybody wants to experience bungee jumping or, as a mountain biker, a backflip. But you're worried about breaking your neck. Who are you kidding? I want to jump as a 20-some-year-old, and I used to go downhill and jump whatever the hell I wanted. I could care less. And now at 41, I'm like, that's a 6 to 8 month injury right there. I messed up my shoulder, and it's killing me that I can't go to the gym right now because I like moving around, and it's very daunting on your mentality. So yes, fear itself would be what has definitely influenced decisions.
I feel that, I don't know. I feel like looking, at least as an outsider, at your life, I feel like you've done more than others because I feel like I would say that you have a good relationship with fear, that you're able
Oh, I've
to
done everything.
have the discipline to overcome it. No? Or would you not say that?
I hope that my friend Matt listens to this one and he smiles.
Okay.
You never met him, but I have a friend who has zero fear. He probably has fear, but he's wired differently.
Okay.
And when I say wired differently, I mean he's crazy. There's something wrong. And he'll laugh at this because he knows. And I wasn't his best man at his wedding, but I said the best man speech. And everybody, the 100 people that was in the room, they agreed that he's just like this crazy person. I mean, one time it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, you want to go hiking?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's go hiking." He's like, "All right, you ready to go?" I said, "Yeah, well, I'll be ready in an hour, whatever." He picked me up. We drove like 2 hours to a place called Breakneck Mountain in upstate New York. We get there and I think we're going hiking. Well, it turns out that Breakneck Mountain is like number 7 or 8 on the national rock scrambling hardness level of mountain climbing. That's what they call mountain climbing, is rock scrambling. So here we are, almost vertically climbing a 2,100 foot mountain with a Snickers bar in each one of our back pockets and a bottle of water.
That's it?
We got to the top and we were hysterical crying from the anxiety and the fear. Because I looked down one time and he goes, "If you have a panic attack right now, you're dead." And I was just like, damn. So we get to the top and these people are like screaming at us. And they had a group there and they had their rope locks and ropes and backpacks and all the everything, their gear. And they're like, "Are you crazy? How many times have you done this before?" And I'm sitting there, I'm laughing hysterically in tears. And I'm like, it's my first time. Never did this shit before, And Matt, that's just like the type of person he is. Well, 14 hours later, because to get back down, you had to go back down the same way, and we weren't descending that way. So we had to go down a whole mountain, then walk up a whole nother mountain's trail, then go down a mountain and walk up a whole nother mountain's trail. And it's pitch black outside. Our phones were dead. We had eaten our Snickers bar. We had no water or anything left. And we had like a 10-mile walk back to the car.
You know this is going to be an ad for Snickers, right?
I mean, Snickers is a hell of a candy bar at the day. But it's crazy when you only eat like how many calories is a Snickers bar? It's just the sugar that gets you for a little
180,
bit. Yeah, whatever it is.
240
Thank God it was a king size. I would have been bear food.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's having friends like that, I think, when you're younger that gets you into those positions because you feel the fear and you do it anyway.
That's another one of your crazy stories that I've actually never heard before.
Yeah, it's I've got a lot of pictures of it if you want to see it, of the
please.
mountain. Yeah, I'll show you in a little bit.
God.
Yeah, I'll show you. I got so many pictures of that mountain.
If you ever ask me to go mountain climbing at 4 a.m, I will go. No.
Just
Put the
don't
phone
even
down.
say no. I just want to hear the beep of the hang up.
I'm just gonna hang up.
Believe me, I won't ask you.
Oh my God.
I won't ask you.
That's funny.
But if he calls us, we're going.
No thanks.
As long as Lori says you can go, you'll go. All right, Lori says you
She
can't
says
go,
no.
so all right, she loves you.
If someone listening feels lost right now, what truth do you think that they need to hear, not what they want to hear?
Embrace it without pushing it upon other people. I think that we're in a society that if you feel a certain way, everybody else around you has to feel the same way too. Like your opinion is not just your own. You have to protest that that opinion is the right opinion. And this podcast will never get into politics. So anybody who's listening, I will cut it off right there. Where I don't care blue or red, I will never get into politics. But you have to scream into a pillow. You have to cry your eyes out for days. You have to feel it. Because when you suppress it, you're not just suppressing the emotion, you're suppressing your ability to grow from it. And growth only happens when you stare it in the face. Same thing like fear. You're only going to do it if you stare it in the face.
You're only going to change because of the trauma. That was one of the first things we talked about.
Yep. So you don't have to do it in the presence of others to make your point. But if you have somebody that you have a shoulder that you can cry on and they actually want to be there and listen because they're a good friend or significant other or family member, then go for it. Because a lot of us don't, and a lot of us also internally feel like we are a burden on other people by giving our thought process to them. Because, we've all been in a bad relationship or a great relationship that ended or lost someone or, whatnot. And we don't want to burden someone else with feeling our feelings. At least that's how I feel.
Mm.
But I know that there's a lot of people out there who are doing it right by expressing their feelings, but they're doing it wrong because they're expressing it to people who really don't care. Like if you're in a support group, that group is for that. But I just wouldn't go on social media and just like blurt it out. I am heavily against when someone passes away that they go on social media and they're like, we miss you so much. You're God's angel now. Like, no, social media is not an ideal idolization. Like that's idolizing a false prophet, a false God, I guess we'll call it. So I guess I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but like it just to me, it's weird when people go on social media and they're like, we miss you, we this and that, because you're not actually talking to them. You're using social media as a platform to talk to them, and it makes you feel better. I can understand, but I don't know. To me, it's just weird.
You feel like it's performative if it's
I feel like you're just wanting to get some kind of recognition for it, and that's the way that you're doing it. Is hey, I need those likes because that dopamine helps me. And yes, there's nothing wrong with those likes and getting them, but I think it's being. I don't know. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because I've been there and I've done it, but I think you're asking for.
Well, you're telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's a different story. I mean, nobody's really broken. Unless you take your own life, you're going to be here tomorrow. The sun's going to come up tomorrow. Today might have been a really bad day, but a month from now is that rainy storm that you're having is going to move on.
And we hope that you are.
I hope that you are having a good day because like that guy that said to you on the treadmill or me saying to somebody, hey, smile. It's not that bad.
Never know.
You never know. You can make somebody smile. I always say that you should smile because you never know who's watching.
The guy in the Stairmaster was watching.
The guy in the Stairmaster was watching. He's like,
this guy looking messed up right now with that Celsius.
Oh
He really needs that Celsius.
Yeah. So that was a good guy for you to run into that day.
Do you have someone special in your life?
I don't. I do not.
Mm.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to leave this one at that right now. I don't. It's, it just is what it is.
Okay.
Hopefully in the future. I mean, none of us want to go through life alone. I do really enjoy being in a relationship, and I am the type of person who learns from every previous one. Because if you can't learn from it, then what's the point of being in it? I do envy the people who are in a relationship from a young age because they found somebody who they can work with and grow with together rather than I have my way of doing something, you have your way of doing something, and now we're just clashing the whole time, trying to fit these two people together in the same box.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people, they are so used to living their life, and then they meet somebody and they're perfect for them. And then they move in together, and all of a sudden it's chaos. So like I have a friend, he's I think 71 or 72. Unfortunately, his wife passed away some years ago and he met someone. He's not married, but they've been together for like over 10 years now. She's got her own house, he's got his own house, man cave, everything.
Tell me about this.
And everything works out perfect for him. And he's like, dude, if you really think about it, she decorates her own house. She does whatever she wants. She doesn't touch my stuff when she comes over here. She doesn't like it, but she doesn't touch my stuff. And it's me. It's my own house. I don't know. I can appreciate that, but I don't feel like that. I feel like everybody needs somebody. I don't think that the world works well. If there's the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And that resonated with me always. I think I ruminate on that a lot because it is better to go with someone, even if it's half the distance, than go all the way by yourself. Because at the finish line, who's going to root for you?
Who's gonna get you to the top of the mountain with a Snickers bar in your back pocket?
There's some memories you just can't get rid of, some feelings you can never feel, but I felt it and moving on. Moving
And then
on.
that brings us to, this is a nice segue to the last question here, which is, what are your thoughts on relationships and dating these days?
I think we've covered
We've covered that a bit.
quite a bit of this. I think I've covered this answer already.
Yeah.
I think you have to be patient with the person that you're with. When you get into an argument, it's not a means to an end. It is a us versus the argument.
Yes.
Now, I wish I learned this some months back because it's very hard for me to comprehend it. Because if you don't agree with something that I agree with, it's me versus you because it's your opinion. And if you don't agree with something that I say, it's you versus me because it's my opinion. So now, after having done my research and learned a bit more about relationships and how they technically should work out, it is us versus this problem. Even though you're the one with the problem or I'm the one with the problem, it's us versus this problem. And I think more people need to look at it that way. And unfortunately, it takes trauma for you to learn that.
Yeah.
So, my parents have been together, like I said, for 46, 47 years. And sometimes they don't talk about things. And yes, of course, there's going to be resentment. After a year, you get some resentment of stuff. After 50 years, you're going to have a book, if not an Encyclopedia Britannica, full of them. But I think that you really do need to take the other person for their face value, which most of the time is pretty high. The grass is not greener most of the time. 99.999 to infinity. The grass is not always greener. It's green where you water it. And divorces, relationships, all those things would last a lot longer if people decided that they're willing to work on it rather than give up on it. I heard this thing the other day. It was actually kind of funny to me. Females mature faster than men because they have options a lot earlier. So like a 16 to 18-year-old man, they're not even looked at.
No.
They're not even on the radar of a girl because a girl in high school, like 18 years old, she's looking at college guys that have cars and have jobs and all these things.
Football team.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not even looked at. So girls get like, or good looking guys, they get a lot of DMs. So let's say that two people are dating, okay, and the girl is really, really pretty. She'll get a lot of these DMs, which I hate using because it sounds just so. They get direct messages. Okay, I'd rather say it like that, even though it dates me. They get these DMs and they have all these guys that are so thirsty, and they have all these guys that are so like, oh baby, I can take you out, I can do this, I can do that. And then you look at your significant other and he's like, they only take me out once a week, if once a week. They're not Christian Grey, they don't have a yacht. They can't take me out on the boat all the time or drive in the fancy car. But these guys that are messaging them don't want to wife them up. They just want to have a good time.
Yep.
And that's the reality of it. And a lot of women, and I'm gonna be, it's not really a misogynistic thing, but I'm just gonna say to the women that are out there, is these guys that are messaging you that have all of these things, they're not looking to be your husband. That guy that lost his job fights with you, stays there, argues with you about plates in the sink or, just stupid little things that are little nuances. If that guy is willing to stay around and he doesn't cheat on you and he doesn't do bad things to you and like insult you, things like that, he's going to be a better fit than that guy that's just going to give you a little bit of fun and then look for the next younger, better looking thing in his eyes. And it's the same way on the opposite side too. I don't want it to just sound more masculine than feminine, but I am a guy, so I see what I see. But yeah, I think more people just need to spend more time with each other rather than looking elsewhere for things. And with social media getting worse and worse and worse, I know this is like
Just funnels
how
it
many
in your
yeah,
face
it
all
just
the
it
time.
throws it in your face. Like how many times I go on
God.
Facebook, I belong to car shows and and things like that. And next thing all I see is commercials of relationship this or that, or like these medications for lasting longer and things like that. Like I don't know what you're looking for.
My favorite, which when I say this facetiously, my favorite is like these pages that like they'll post automotive content on Instagram,
Mhm.
and then every now and then it's like some chick touting her OnlyFans, and you're like, wait, what? I thought this was like boosted whatever the heck JDM blah blah page. Why is this here? And then you click it and you look at the whole page, and it's like it's all the cool car stuff, but then the new recent post is some girl shaking her butt. And you're like, wait a second, this person went ahead and generated all this following just so they could go and sell out and sell marketing to, some OnlyFans girls. And then you're like, "Ah, great, now I gotta unfollow this thing."
See, I
Unfollow.
don't have
That happens all the time.
I don't have
And it's just you're
Instagram.
getting like funneled, like either you get these pages that sell out or just the algorithm just throws it at you because it knows you're a dude, and it just erodes like the freaking family.
I think that's what it
unit,
is. I think that's what it
like
is.
Where like both sides get bombarded in different ways in like trying to like pull you. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
you're getting brainwashed essentially.
Well, that's
into
what it is.
constantly being like, no, I need something better. No, I need something better. No, I need something better. And like for men, it's like you just get constant like booty just going over and over just in your face because the algorithm knows you're a dude. And then for women, it's just like a bunch of just validation, like from
Well,
all
I
freaking avenues.
I'm
bombarded.
amazed. I feel bad
And
for
it's-
women.
Yeah, it's like both are just equally terrible, essentially. And it's meant to pull you from watering your own grass.
Yes. And I really feel bad for women because you look at anything and you have these curated images of like these girls who have these perfect physiques. They go to the, they got fake this, fake that, whatever, and they look perfect.
It's edited though.
And it's, well, a lot of it is edited. But I'm saying, that it's edited. I know that it's edited.
But
They're in real time. They're edited. They're enhanced. They're whatever in their real lives, but they don't show what it took to get to that.
Mhm.
They don't show the 4 hours or 5 hours in the gym every day. They don't show the starving themselves. They don't show the surgeries that they went through and the pain to get to where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think most women, if you were told what the pain is like from a lift or cutting skin out or so many other things, they wouldn't really be into doing it if they knew what the pain was, but
I
they
mean, you
see
could-
it and they want it.
You could die from a BBL, isn't it's like the
That's
highest
the highest risk
it's the highest risk, yeah.
of
Didn't-
mortality.
Didn't Kanye West's mom die or something from that?
I'm not
Or
sure.
somewhere?
I don't follow anybody, but I know that the statistic is that's
It's
the high. Yeah, it's
extremely high.
extremely dangerous
'Cause
because the
essentially you get-
infection rate. Did you have any more questions for me?
I do not. That is it for today's episode.
I think that was a pretty good episode. I want to thank everybody who stayed and watched the whole thing. This is my buddy Christian. Obviously, we're going to try to get him to get back on his own podcast standing because he is entertaining and I love working with him.
Thank you.
I like the fact that we did a podcast that you guys know a little bit about me because, like I said in the beginning, it's hard to take advice from someone where you don't know where they've been, how they got to the point where they're at, and where they're going with their mentality and their lifestyle. So I hope this was a little bit of clarity to you guys. And if there's anything that you guys want to hear in the future, just send me an email at thehumanfactorxx@gmail.com. Or you can message me down on the bottom of YouTube or Spotify or iHeartRadio, iTunes, all that. And I'll also put my Patreon on there. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it. Have a good night.
Have a good night.